Welcome to the You at Your Best podcast. I'm your host, Morgan. Before we get into the episode, let me give a little bit of an introduction for anyone who's new. If you like listening to someone process life in real time, or you are neurodivergent, an overthinker, a perfectionist, or maybe feel things deeply, this is the podcast for you. This is a non-professional, very human podcast about choosing authenticity over performance. My goal is to remind you to always come back to yourself. I talk about very deep things. I don't avoid vulnerability, but I trust you to know what resonates, what feels safe, and what might be too much for you right now. And I also share a journal prompt at the end of every single episode to help you think. So join me if you want to create a life that actually feels like you, so that you can become you at your best. All right, let's go ahead and get into this week's episode. Hello, I hope you're doing well. I am recording this introduction after I recorded the podcast episode because I started the episode off not really knowing where I was going with it, and I just wanted to explain kind of what goes on in the episode. So to start off, I talk about my podcast Rebrand. This podcast Rebrand is me finally coming back to myself. And although the rebrand may not change a lot based off episode styles, it is changing a lot based off of how I feel like I'm presenting myself. And then for the second part of this episode, if you're someone who wants to create content, or you want to put yourself out there, or you have dreams and aspirations in some way, but you're scared about it, or worried about other people's opinions, or worried about how people might perceive you. So I talk about that, and I talk about just not caring as much about other people's opinions and just doing what you love, regardless of what other people might say or might think. All right, that's it for the introduction. I really hope you enjoy the episode. Let's go ahead and get into it. Welcome back. I feel really awkward because I'm not saying welcome to the You at Your Best podcast. If you listen to the introduction, then you know that I have an official intro that I'm actually going to be keeping in every single episode. That way, people know that my podcast is not professional, and whenever people come, they can tell what they're getting into and what my podcast is, because I feel like sometimes people can start a podcast and then they don't really know what's going on. They just listen and then they're a little bit confused. And I think sometimes my podcast episodes can be a little bit confusing. So having that introduction is really great. I'm not really sure what this week's episode is going to be about. I just really want to talk about the rebrand, and I have some things on my mind that I think I might save for next week's episode instead. I feel like it would be really nice to just have an entire episode with this rebrand, a reflection, and me just explaining my goals and a little bit of the behind the scenes for finally having this rebrand that I've been wanting for such a long time. In last week's episode, I didn't talk about this rebrand because I already had the episode recorded before I decided that I was going to go ahead and change the cover. I have known that I've been wanting to change the cover. I had it all planned out, like how I'm going to handle social media from now on and possibly what the cover is going to look like. I had a bit of an idea, but I didn't know whenever I was recording that episode that I would have went ahead and made the cover. Thought about going ahead and making the intro and everything then, but I decided to just wait and let this episode be the official introduction to the rebrand. Although I think that one is also a really great introduction to the rebrand. It kind of explains it a little bit, explains my headspace and a part of why I wanted to make some changes. But I think I want to explain the rest of the changes, not because I feel like I need to explain myself, but because I like that. I like that transparency on this podcast, and a huge part of this rebrand is just being less perfect and being me, and sometimes just being me means making episodes like this. So, like I said, I have a new introduction for this podcast that I'm going to be keeping in every single episode, and I'm also going to have a outro that I'm going to put in every single episode because I tend to struggle with my outro, and I try to remember everything that I need to say, and I don't have it in me. So sometimes I'm just like, whatever, and just end the episode. But I like the idea of having an outro that reminds people to rate my podcast and share my podcast and all of those things that I sometimes can't even think of whenever I'm done recording a podcast episode. It's nice having that, and I can just insert the intro, insert the outro, and just get right into the episode. The intro is a bit longer than the average podcast intro is, but I feel like since my podcast is the way that it is, I can probably get away with that a little bit, and you can always skip it if you don't want to listen to it. I know it's probably annoying if you already know my podcast well and you have to listen to that intro all the time, but it is there for new people and newcomers. A part of this rebrand is me wanting to expand my podcast and me wanting to actually put myself out there, because even though I love my podcast and I am really proud of it, I have spent a lot of the most recent time being a little bit scared of putting myself out there out of fear of like judgment, or maybe people that I know finding my podcast and maybe judging me or whatever. And I've just been so worried about that. And with this rebrand, I'm not letting that fear get in the way anymore. I'm putting myself out there, and I want people to find my podcast. I want my podcast to get bigger. As scary as it is, I don't want my podcast to just be for me anymore. I feel like it's so tiny right now that it's just for me, and that's great, but I really want people to find my podcast, and I really want to start making actual good amounts of money, not $1 a month. But that's why I have that intro, so that whenever newcomers come, they know right away what's going on and if they would like to stay or not. I feel like for my podcast, I kind of make my episodes with the expectation that the person listening is mature, and for some people, maybe they don't want that. Sometimes people just want a teacher. I get it. Like I was like that in the past. I didn't want someone that was just going to be my friend. I wanted someone to tell me what to do. And sometimes I'm even like that with motherhood. But I wanted to make it very clear that my podcast is not me teaching anyone or me telling people what to do. It's me making episodes with the expectation that my listeners are holding their own emotions, understanding themselves, having their own boundaries with what they listen to and what they don't listen to. In my last episode, I talked about how I felt a little bit guilty, worrying that I was causing people to spiral. And after reflecting on that, I've realized that the reason why I make my episodes the way that I do is because I've always had that expectation that people are adults and people are mature and they're going to do what they need. Okay, and now for the cover art. I'm actually going to pull it up on my phone so that I can look at it. My boyfriend and I, we had his grandmother watch Clemmy, our toddler, and we went to this like random fancy looking church in like the town over, and we took pictures, and I had an idea. I wanted it to be more pink and have like a pretty pink background. I have a picture of my daughter and I that I was kind of using as inspiration for this. I didn't pay anyone to take the pictures. I can't afford to pay a professional. I mean, I guess I could, but it was just easier doing it this way, and he's pretty good at taking pictures. He knows my angles, he knows me well, and I feel like it can be entirely my vision. I have complete control over the photo shoot whenever it's with him. So we took the pictures, and I was stressing out so much that day. I was so worried that I wouldn't have any good pictures, and we ended up getting a really good picture, a couple really good ones, but it took me probably 4 hours to make this new cover art because I was so stressed out. I couldn't figure out how to make it look good, and I actually had to use ChatGPT to help me. I sent the picture to ChatGPT. Well, actually I sent 2 pictures, and ChatGPT told me which picture to use. Did it a little bit different than what ChatGPT said, but it really helped me figure out how to make this cover look good and to bring my vision to life. I couldn't pay someone to do it for me. I had to do it myself. So I love the cover art. I feel a little bit scared for people to see it because it feels maybe more intimate than my last cover art. My last cover art felt very like conservative. Like I feel like someone would see that cover art and think like, okay, this girl talks about really deep things maybe, but isn't like, her podcast isn't very intimate. And the reason why I had that cover art was because I had to use whatever picture I could for a new cover art, and I didn't want to keep my old one from before I was even pregnant. So I used that picture, and just like this one, it took me hours to figure out how to make it, ways to make it look good, but it didn't feel right for my podcast. The colors in it never felt like me. I was just using what I had, and that was the best picture out of all of my pictures to use. And I felt like for social media, I had to stay on theme with my podcast cover art, which meant that a lot of my videos and posts that I was making, they were just getting so boring to me because they didn't feel like me. And my podcast Instagram versus my personal Instagram kind of looked like two different people, and I hated it, but I wanted to stay on theme. And also having that other cover art did make it easier to create content in my everyday life because I could just record right outside my apartment. I could use videos that are very easy to make and very easy to get because I didn't have to be intentional with what I was recording. I could just record something, put audio over it, and that was it. But it did kind of feel like it was just kind of like inserted. Maybe it was AI and not a real human being in those videos. Although it takes extra work with the new rebrand, I love it and it feels so much more like me. I can finally use pink again. I like green, but pink and blue, those are my favorite colors, and I've been like almost stuck in this trap of I can't make things how I want and I need to fit a certain brand that it didn't feel like me. So now I'm able to have a brand that feels like me. For my socials, I have a little bit of a different approach now. It's still very similar, but I'm trying to make videos that seem more intentional and not just that I took a video outside and added audio to it and put captions and that's it. I am trying to make it more obvious of what I'm trying to do with my podcast, and I am also leaning into my, I know this is like so cringy to say, but I'm leaning into my like Gen Z side, and I feel like before that I was like, my podcast felt very millennial, which is fine, but it didn't fully show all of me. So I'm making more videos that feel more relaxed and casual and feel like that side of me that I don't really express on my podcast. And I made a video for my most recent episode, and it's using Horseshoe by Tate McRae, and I just put on the screen, I got a horseshoe around my neck and it's perfectionism, and I put perfectionism in all caps, and that was just to promote that video. And when I was recording it, I was just like, I just want to feel pretty. I want to record how I do whenever I'm taking selfies, and so I did that. And then I love that song, and I just started singing because that's what felt right. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna use this video. I posted it, and a couple of hours later I went on there and I was like, oh my god, this video is so fucking cringy. And I was like, maybe I should delete it. I'm so embarrassed, but I kept it up anyways. And a huge part of this rebrand is me not being so scared to put myself out there, not being so scared for people to see me, and letting people see the side of me that I have kind of hid and maybe only shared on my private Instagram account that I let only certain people follow. So if you are someone that maybe wants to start something, but you're scared to put yourself out there, just do it. That's all I can say. Like, it's scary, it's hard, but it's so worth it. And you might be embarrassed. People might think you're weird, but oh well. Honestly, like, people who are so worried about other people are so fucking miserable. And like me personally, even if I care a little bit, I'm not going to let that worry or that fear of someone else's opinion define me and define how I put myself out there and work on my podcast, because it's important to me that I am authentic in this podcast. And for me, being authentic means showing the sides of me that I'm a little scared to show, which is the more, I guess, intimate side of me where the camera's closer to me. And the new cover art kind of shows that a little bit more, shows that this podcast is more intimate and not so conservative, I guess. But you know what you want to do. You know what your dreams are. You just have to go for them. You just have to do it. And like I said, I know it's scary. I know it's terrifying, but you don't need to worry. Genuinely, like, you will be completely fine. The world will still move. And I saw a quote one time. A girl that I knew from college posted it on her story, and I wish I could repeat it directly, but it was something along the lines of, actually, I'm gonna go find it. I'll be right back. Okay, I found it. It's, you are so terrified of being cringe that you are living a muted version of your own life, even though one day your rotting flesh will be feasted upon by worms, just like everyone else's. You are a sack of meat that has put itself in prison just so other sacks of meat don't laugh at you. And I thought that was so funny, but also so true, because we're so worried about other people's opinions whenever we're literally just sacks of meat and we're gonna die one day. So why not live our life to the fullest? This life that we have right now. Why not fully be exactly who you are? Why make yourself small for other people whenever you were never meant to be small? You were never meant to be a puppet for other people. You were never meant to be someone that does what everyone else expects of you. You were meant to figure out yourself. The point of this life isn't to be understood by other people. It's to finally be understood by ourselves, to get to know ourselves so well, to become disgustingly self-aware. I feel like whenever we start creating and whenever we first put ourselves out there, we don't think about who we could be helping at first. We think about everyone else and what other people might be thinking about us. And whenever we worry so much about what someone else might think or people that we know might think, we can hold ourselves back from creating the content that would help someone tremendously. And you have to remember that if you're not putting yourself out there, you are keeping that help that someone could really use away from that person. Whether it doesn't have to be self-help like my niche, it could be other things, whatever it is that you like. If you want to post fashion videos, or if you want to share about motherhood or share about your life, it doesn't matter. If you want to do it, just do it. And I feel like a lot of people listening to my podcast, especially if they know me personally, they may think like, I can't make a podcast because I'm taking away from Morgan. That's her thing. That's not even close to how I feel, and I want to make that very clear. Anyone who's listening to this and knows me personally, if you do make a podcast, I would be so happy for you. If you do put yourself out there, I wouldn't be angry at all. I think sometimes people can worry that they can't do what they want out of fear that they're copying someone else, but I don't give a damn if you're copying me. Like, genuinely, to me, it's more authentic to be okay with doing something that someone else is doing, even if it looks like you're copying them, because who cares? I know it's like there's a difference between truly not being your own person and doing what someone else is doing, or like completely copying someone else, but getting inspiration from someone and doing something that you love because of that inspiration. That's beautiful. That's amazing. That's what humans should be doing. So whatever you want to do, just do it. Just start it. If you want to post on social media, post the video, get off and leave it there, even if you're cringing at yourself like I did with that video with Tate McRae's song. You can't fear being cringy. I feel like our generation especially, we're so scared of putting ourselves out there. We're so scared of being different. We're so scared of not being what's cool. And so many of us just have ourselves into this box of, I have to be perceived in a certain way. And it's just like, who fucking cares? It's exhausting. And honestly, like, I'm at a place in my life where I don't even give a shit about those people anymore. The people who all they care about is how they look and how people perceive them, rather than just being themselves, who are so scared of putting themselves out there out of fear of being cringy. It's okay to put yourself out there. It's okay to be cringy. Being human means being cringy. And like so many people say, to be cringy is to be free. So put your content out there for that one person that it's going to help, for that one person that it's going to change the life of. Think about them. Don't think about everyone else, your parents or family members that may know about your content but won't talk about it or are secretly judging you. I don't even think about that. I know that a lot of people in my life know about this podcast, but whenever I'm around people, I don't even think about that. Like, I don't even think about my podcast. I don't worry because I don't care. And even if I do care, even if I do start getting a little bit scared, I don't let that fear control my actions. I still put myself out there. I still work towards my goals, even whenever I'm scared. I don't let how I feel dictate what I do. I don't let how I feel dictate whether or not I'm going to put an episode out that week or not. I just keep on working. I just keep on doing. And even if it's not perfect, I'm still trying. And obviously there are times where I still struggle, and I want to make that very known, but that's all you can really do with putting yourself out there. Just keep on working towards your goals and keep on doing what you think is right, even if you realize that it's not what you want later on down the road. That's just like me with my rebrand. I'm not deleting all of my past episodes. I'm leaving them up, and I love those episodes, but I'm changing, and that's okay. The more you change, the more you grow. Your content will change and grow with you, and that's okay. I used to be that person that would delete podcast episodes out of shame anytime I would change, anytime I would grow as a person. And if someone is doing that, especially someone who's constantly reflecting and constantly getting to know themselves, who is disgustingly self-aware, that person is going to change a lot. And as humans, we are going to change constantly. And if someone were to delete their content every time they change a little bit, they would never have any content. So something that I actually regret is deleting my podcast episodes from the past. I like that they're still out there, and I will actually link them down below because there's one website that they didn't get deleted on. Not my very first time, those ones are gone. Well, they're still in my computer, so I could possibly put them out for the world to see, but I don't know if I want to because they're pretty bad, as in like unkind. But those episodes from the first time I restarted my podcast, you can still listen to them if you want, and I'll link it in the show notes if you want to hear it. But you can really tell how much I've changed from listening to those episodes versus now. You can see that I approached my podcast in a very unkind, mean way. For me, it wasn't because I was like that. It was kind of like almost a shield, kind of helped me with the criticisms that I may have got with making that podcast. And I was also really struggling with my mental health, really disliked myself, but I still tried. And it's not great. It's not good. It's embarrassing even sometimes, but that's what life is like. That's what life is. And waiting until you're perfect to start doing what you want to do or to start following your dreams is the exact thing that's going to hold you back. And the truth is, you don't need to change yourself. You don't need to be like other people or look at other people's content and post what they're posting, although that can be great and getting inspiration from that can be really helpful. What you need is to just post what you love. Do what you love. If you want to make a TikTok account and post a bunch of videos of you lip singing, even if it's fucking cringy as hell, just do it. Because like you love it. I love that. I think it's so fun. And I'm leaning more into that with my podcast Instagram and TikTok. Post what makes you happy. Post what you love. Do what makes you happy. If you want to make a podcast that's about self-help like mine is, and you want to talk about your personal growth journey, or you maybe want to put yourself in the role of like a big sister or a big brother and giving people advice that you needed whenever you were that age, or if you want to create a podcast where you're constantly reflecting and talking about the emotions that people avoid, just do it. Just put yourself out there. Okay, that's all for this episode. For this week's journal prompt, I didn't have it planned out because I didn't know where I was going with this episode when I started recording. I knew that I was going to talk about my podcast and the new rebrand. I did not know that I was going to start talking about putting yourself out there. I'm trying to think of something that whenever I first started my podcast would have helped me. Okay, so for the journal prompt, write about your dreams. Like just write about what you would like to do. You don't have to start it. You don't have to do it yet, but write about it so that you understand what it is that you want, even if you're not ready to put yourself out there yet. For me, I'm someone that needs to process and understand my brain and myself before I can really do anything. So it's a really great way to have a deeper understanding of what you love and what you want to do so that you can then post and put yourself out there. Okay, I don't really know how to end this episode because I'm not making my outro. I guess we'll just go straight to the outro now. Okay, that's all for today. If something in this episode resonated, share it with a friend who needs a little reminder that they're not alone. If you want more conversations like these, be sure to follow and rate this podcast. Downloading this episode is one of the best ways to help this podcast grow, so be sure to do that. If you want to find me on social media, all of my links are in my link tree in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next Sunday.